If this is your first time on a Pocket Network Node Runners office hours call, couple of things to keep in mind. Please keep your microphone muted unless you are speaking at the time or asking a question, getting an answer, that sort of thing. Second, please don't DM me during the call. I'm not going to see it. There's a bunch of other folks who are paying attention to DMs out there and or the Node Runner channel. So if for some reason you're having technical difficulties and you can't get a question in or something along that line, drop the question out there. I won't see it till after the call, and I'll feel bad that we didn't get a chance to answer your question. But first up, let's talk about the network this week. Pay Pocket Engineering team, that's pretty incredible. Back-to-back all-time highs, day after day after day. That is pretty darn significant. And for those who didn't notice, Pocket has now been listed on Token Terminal, so we're actually seeing rewards tracking and all the rest of that in one of the most popular platforms for that sort of thing. So I definitely recommend going to check it out. Michael has talked for a long time about Pocket getting to a place where it's doing 1 billion relays a day, and we broke 100 million. It was like, okay, well, maybe 1 billion relays a day is possible. We broke 200 million, and it's like, well, all right, well, maybe a little more possible. At this point, with spikes over 300 million, 350 million, it seems pretty damn inevitable. So it's an exciting time to be part of Pocket and part of that growth. And of course, the node runners are exactly how that all works. So every one of you who's participating and staked and earning on the network, you're part of the reason why this is happening. So glad to have you all here. I don't have any officially featured guests today to talk about anything in particular, so we're just going to go ahead and jump straight into some Q&A. Format's pretty simple. We don't really care what the question is as long as it's related to Pocket directly. We're not going to be talking about other tokens or anything else along that line, but if you have a question about anything related to Pocket Network, the ecosystem, the tooling, node running, all of that core functionality, then jump up in and you've got the right people on the call to help get it answered. So actually, before I take the first question, I know since we've got a few Pocket folks on here, Rich, Shane, any of y'all have anything in particular that you want to tell the crowd before we get into the questions?
Well, there you said it.
Yeah, interesting tidbit for Node Launcher, the JavaScript deployment engine for nodes that we've been developing. We found out that really with 2 lines of code, Node Launcher, that JavaScript library enabled Pocket or enabled Nodepilot to be an executable, a usable executable on Windows. So we had no idea that it was actually going to be that simple. Once we were thinking it was going to be a more of an intense transition to try to go cross-platform, but it actually looked like it was really, really easy. We were helping a developer, and it just actually was super easy to get Node Launcher and then, or ultimately Nodepilot working on a Windows machine using Docker, desktop Docker on that Windows machine. So anyways, that was just kind of some interesting, exciting news on the possibility of node runners also being able to use Windows for node deployment and node management.
Beautiful. Well, in that case, I guess that means I should be running Pocket now on every PC in my house. Is that what you're suggesting?
The only issue with Windows, though, is they have the forced updates, which I don't think there's any way to, in a proper way. You would have to be running server to not have those forced updates on you. So if you're running desktop, it just, those forced updates, you just never know what's going to happen. You can't necessarily set and forget. But for some people that might be worth, dealing with some of the hassle of the forced updates, of it taking you offline every once in a while, to, be in a platform that they're more familiar with. But yeah, you could absolutely run nodes from your Windows machines if you're getting that desperate because you got too many rewards coming in to possibly scale anywhere else.
Awesome. Well, that's good to know. Alberto, Anybody else?
The
Rich?
answer, Jinx, is yes. Always and absolutely yes. No, I'm joking. All the caveats of chain make a lot of sense. I have one PSA.
Yep.
This isn't anything groundbreaking, but we are seeing new people join the Discord server. A lot of people joining the Node Runner channel and, being part of the conversation. My general kind of guideline here for everyone is that if you've been to 2, maybe 3 of these office hour calls, you are now a veteran. You're going to see a lot of people come from different regions of the world, different DevOps skill level, different kind of perspectives from different sources. And so they are going to be the new people to Node Runners. And a lot of people on this call, you already know a lot and you're learning a lot. And so please help out any newcomers. The marketing team has teased a lot of good stuff to happen this month. And I think as a result in February, this kind of community will, just be different. And so, people who are on this call, it may seem like you recently joined, but you are very quickly going to become a grizzled veteran of node running with Pocket. So please help out new people. And it may seem like you recently joined, but a couple of weeks here is really meaningful as far as experience. So that's my PSA, and just really excited about what's to come.
I mean, I was grizzled before I got here, so now I'm extra grizzled.
I've never seen a grizzled octopus, but go on.
Beautiful. Well, in that case, let's go ahead and start getting into questions. If you've got a question, just unmute yourself, ask the question, and we'll get the proper answers for it. And then please mute yourself after we're done. Who's up first? Do, 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 do.
Is it ready?
Yep. Was that question not directed at me?
Hey, Jinx, I'll throw a question out there for you.
Yep.
I think I saw this in the chat, and I was actually curious, especially when it comes to all the newcomers in the space. People are wondering, everything looks so great on a chart right now from a relays perspective, and Harmony looks so good, but how does that look when you compare it to other chains that aren't yet on the Pocket network? I know this is, you can't exactly predict the future, but in terms of relay totals, how does a Harmony stack up against other potential chains to really understand how many relays could Pocket Network truly push through if and when more chains are added?
I mean, honestly, I think that's a pretty fantastic question. One of the things that we see, and yeah, some people have been talking about it in the chat on the Poctopus Den, is trying to figure out, what is the throughput that we can expect to see from things like Algorand coming online and Evmos, which I think a lot of folks are excited about. And it is hard for me to say for sure. Evmos is like one of the most exciting ones, I think, because of the fact that it's coming to the table like from day one using Pocket Network, which I think might be the first chain to do that, and we want to encourage that a lot more. But as far as like how much traffic is it going to generate, I haven't seen any sort of estimates or predictions on that kind of thing at all. Pocket team, have y'all had any conversations with Algo or Evmos or any other chains that are potentially in the onboarding pipeline in regards to like what level of throughput we might see from them?
Yeah, I can try and talk about this in a vague sense. I think we've thrown around numbers for what we would call like a total addressable market, a TAM, and it changes every month. I think the way we like to think about it are like kind of nascent chains. So Evmos and IoTex are examples. Like we're taking bets on being default and being effectively launched with them. I think honestly, we're looking for, single digit millions in the initial weeks, tens of millions, over the first couple of months. I think with Harmony's been around for more than a year. It took them a while to get to the hundreds of millions, but those are kind of more mature chains that there's probably going to be more than one RPC provider for, and so like that's why like Harmony, although we were kind of one of the early ones, there will be more competition there, and I don't know if we're always going to have Harmony like traffic on new chains. Algorand's interesting. I can't really make an estimate there, but I think to the kind of address the larger question of like what can we expect with some of these chains and kind of aggregating it. I don't think we're ever going to give like firm estimates, but we're looking for gains in the hundreds of millions. We're not necessarily looking for like kind of linear growth of, we're going to add like 5 million relays through different sources per week. I think we're kind of like bunching them together, so like the next chain we launch, when I can share that, we're hoping it brings as much of a Harmony, so it's kind of a little bit lumpy, but those big bets are kind of the numbers we're looking at. I probably could share what Harmony represents in its totality, but I feel uncomfortable sharing that because that's kind of their data. But as far as the total addressable market of total amount of relays across all different chains, like our estimates would be wildly off because it literally changes so quickly. Does that answer your question, or is that a little bit too vague?
I mean, I think that's pretty good. And I'll say that, I am not a Pocket representative. I am the Poctopus. I have my own opinions. I am separate from the company, so nothing I say is representative of the company. But I've heard that it's around 500 million relays a day that Harmony could be sending us on that main RPC pipe. And it seems like more and more they are shifting more in our direction. So, I mean, that's my third-party outside observation, and I am rooting to get all of it. But I think the question is an important one because of the fact that a lot of us who are, especially if you're building bigger node farms, part of the equation is, well, shoot, am I too late to start building a sizable set of nodes on the network? Is it worth the investment in hardware or whatever else? If I'm building a bare metal stack, especially, you're eating a lot of cost up front in building out that hardware side. So trying to plan for, are we going to have the growth of relays from here and all the rest of that? Now, obviously, those of us who are, long on Pocket, we're absolutely convinced in the vision that Michael's laid out with reaching 1 billion relays a day and 20,000 nodes to 100,000 nodes. It doesn't matter. It seems like there's plenty of blockchain relay traffic to go around. But I know that when it comes to forecasting and planning, the more data that we have, the more confident people feel in making those investments into equipment and infrastructure, All right. Next question.
Well, and to kind of add to that, you have Harmony, as you're saying, you're expecting around, there might be around 500 million relays there or something. One good thing with what Avalanche has actually done is they've periodically tweeted how many relays they're seeing on their public RPC, which is probably the majority of their traffic because their public RPC was it's been widely used in the community and by some of their largest apps, and so so they've tweeted a few times, and like I think the tweet in October was like around 3 billion a day that they were seeing. So you can kind of gauge, okay, well that's Harmony or that's Avalanche for kind of their size, what they're doing, and kind of before they even started their big kind of push this past starting in late summer. They were doing around 1 billion or something. So so they've grown quite a bit. But what I'm saying is kind of taking that that chain that can give you a possible perspective on how many relays are really out there for all these chains that are platforms. There's quite a bit of relays out there, and so the idea, what's been great with Harmony is capturing kind of that early as being a default infrastructure provider. So that's just a really cool situation.
Fantastic. That is a great add-on. And I love those numbers. Holy cow. I've heard a few people who have done some speculation on, what percentage of the total blockchain traffic Pocket could handle over the next, say 6 to 12 months. And it's mind-blowing sometimes seeing the orders of magnitude and growth that are possible. And now we just got to keep we got to hope the supply chain for infrastructure keeps up with our demand for it. Who's got a question up next?
Hey, I have one.
Sorry, say again.
So thanks for having me up here. So I'm actually completely brand new to Pocket Network, as in hours ago I learned about you guys.
Oh, nice.
New, exciting to me. I guess I'm gonna take a deeper dive into the website and read everything. But from my brief understanding, so you guys are decentralized AWS essentially.
I don't think that's an easy way that people sort of dive into the concept sometimes, but that's probably not terribly accurate. Although when AWS goes down, our traffic absolutely spikes, picking up some of the throughput from there. AWS is a super, super broad set of services. And specifically when people make those AWS comparisons, I think a lot of times what they're really referring to is ECS, which is elasticized container services. And Pocket is not an EVM chain, right? You don't build compute apps on Pocket, which is a big part of what AWS does. However, a lot of individual blockchains run all of their nodes on the AWS environment, and so when AWS goes down, those blockchains go down entirely. The part of the process that Pocket is specifically focused on is providing that decentralized pool of RPC endpoints. Every time you've got, read or read-write lookups against a blockchain, there are API calls that are being made against those chains through either a direct interface provided by that chain or through third-party services which are supporting that chain. And, if you've only got a handful of nodes, or if your node farm is being completely overwhelmed by the number of requests that are happening, Pocket is often right now being used as a backup. Their network gets congested, and so they switch over to Pocket to free up some bandwidth, and we support those requests. What's cool right now with some of the new chains that are coming on, like Evmos, for instance, is that Pocket is being baked into the infrastructure from the beginning. And that's really fundamentally how I recommend people are building dApps in the future. If you're using a decentralized compute provider like, say, Akash, and you're using a decentralized file store provider like Storage or IPFS or something along that line, Pocket becomes your decentralized access or decentralized delivery mechanism. Essentially the same as how you might use Cloudflare in conjunction with a website. So that's the piece of that we service really, really well. The compute itself, that is generally going to live in some other place.
Yeah, I think what would help you is if you look at the centralized providers that we do more closely emulate in terms of what our service does. And you could look at Infura, you could look at Alchemy, or you could look at QuickNode. Those are services where you pay a monthly fee and you get access to these different blockchains for a fee. If you're to go the AWS route, sure, you could use USD to rent out a blank VM machine that then you spin up your own nodes, but that is still quite a process of having to manage your own nodes, even if you're doing it on AWS, which is why services like Infura, like Alchemy, and now Pocket being a decentralized version of those kind of services, that's where Pocket would come in, because then you don't have to get the AWS server, spin up your own nodes, manage your own nodes so that your applications can talk to those chains. You can just do it through a simple API that is a gateway to a fully decentralized infrastructure network to connect your app to the chain that you need to be connected to.
Beautiful. That's a perfect answer. And yeah, I mean, it's, for a 1-to-1 comparison, we talk about this all the time, when people are asking us in direct 1-to-1 comparisons, those are the questions they ask. How does Pocket compare to Infura? How does Pocket compare to Quick Nodes, And like the short answer is you've got one of two things. You either have a highly centralized, very expensive provider who also has limited support for actual chain connections, or you have highly specialized, very centralized providers who, are only serving essentially one or two chains, but they're specialized around a certain kind of functionality. Pocket is the only broad token agnostic decentralized pool out there, and the cost over time, I mean, the targets to achieve cost neutrality from the app side are pretty impressive. It's wildly competitive on price. I mean, I think you're going to come out way cheaper. And for anyone who's not using Pocket's free tier right now for some of the things that you can use, like you can use Pocket's RPCM points for your MetaMask right now. That's something that you can just do today. It costs you nothing. It adds relays to the network. So all of us node runners, thank you. But that's something you can drop in immediately. And there's a bunch of docs that are in the Pocket docs on how to accomplish some of these things. Maybe Shane and Alberto, y'all can push some links out on Twitter after this call and get some more folks using the MetaMask integration, for instance, especially for the new folks who are joining for the first time and looking for a greater understanding.
Right on. Thank you. Appreciate the answer. Excited to learn more.
You got it. Next question.
Hey, James, this is Ming. Just a quick question too on a little bit of a follow-up regarding the POP 10 for the increased session for no count of 24. I know Jack has stated that it's passed on Christmas Eve, so that's great. And he's expecting that to be implemented very soon. So yeah, I just need a last piece of code to be shipped on the proto before the node count can be increased. Do we have any updates of how soon that very soon might be? I know I have a lot of interesting, or at least folks are really interested on when that might take place because they have a smaller node farm. So that would tremendously help them out a lot in their averages.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Ming, this is Alex. So you're exactly right, and you're on top of the development schedule and what's going on, probably more than some people at Pocket. Yes, the PUP has passed. The code is actually on staging and is getting reviewed now. And it's not really code updates to support it, but rather some fixes that we need to do to our data analytics gathering so that we don't overload it. Because right now we record what node services what app, and it's just too much data when we go to 24 nodes per session. So we're going to eliminate that connection in our data analytics. It's just not needed. So that's got to be analyzed today to make sure that fix is safe, push that out. And I think we're going to slowly ramp up the nodes per session. I want to see it work at like 8 nodes, 10 nodes, that sort of thing. See how the cherry picker behaves, see how everything behaves in the whole system, and then ramp up slowly from that. So hopefully the first transaction may go out today to increase nodes per session. If not, I would definitely say tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you.
Beautiful. And for those of y'all who don't know Ming, if you follow the Poctopus, myself, on Twitter, you'll see that I engage with Ming quite a bit. He's one sharp cookie and a recommended follow from me. So circle him up as well.
I just followed him today. Yeah, definitely a good follow.
Yeah, sharp guy. I actually have a question which I don't know if Pocket Team can actually answer because it may be completely unrelated to y'all, but just because I get asked it a lot and I don't have a good answer for it. I know that sometimes when we're confirming transactions on the network, we'll see those transactions confirmed using the old school original Block Explorer, but some of the other third-party tooling may not be finding that transaction for sometimes hours, it seems like, really extended time. Do y'all have any insight on why there might be that disparity, assuming that those third-party tools are using the similar APIs,
It sounds like they may be out of date with Pocket.js, maybe, which of course is kept up to date with the current Pocket core. If you wanted to pursue this further, paste in 2 transactions in the location where it's what's found here and not there, and then that would let us probably identify it pretty easily.
Beautiful. That'd be great to know. I know a lot of folks who are trying to send Pocket across tend to, especially if they're new to the network, when they don't see that transaction clearing within 15, 20 minutes, it causes some panic. So we end up having to go back to the Block Explorer a lot and go, hey, no, it's cool, it's here. I'm not sure why it's not showing up there yet,
Yeah, my first guess would be just upgrade Pocket.js on whoever's missing the transaction.
Beautiful. Okay, cool. Next question. Don't be shy. Any question. Beginner, advanced, we don't care.
Actually, yeah, I do have a question, maybe a question for Alex. It's been talked about the different regions. I know I was just asked by a user about regions. Do you have any update on that?
No, we're a bit short-handed this week, so things have been a little more delayed than I'd liked. The regions are up. We might be missing one or two that I still wanted up. I haven't checked this morning. But yeah, we're at 13, 14, 15, somewhere around there. So almost everywhere we can be. That means the traffic is getting a lot quicker to the end users, so that latency from the end user to the API is reduced. That's not really visible in our stats. You can't really tell like how long something takes to get to the end user, but we know for certain that our relative latency, our expected latency for the end users has improved with this. And of course, this goes hand in hand with the more nodes per session, like we talked about just a bit earlier. Definitely go to publish in the forum and in the node runners section the final list of current regions, and of course our plan to go with even more in the multi-cloud regions. That's coming up soon, but they're live, not quite finalized. Definitely will ping nodes when they're done.
Speaking of that specifically, one of the things that I end up talking to people all around the world who are looking at using Pocket as a platform, and especially I think we talked in a previous session that the high frequency traders, they consider Pocket too slow for what they do. For them, every millisecond shaved off is advantage in their marketplace. And so, the number of hops and some of the randomness associated with the network tend to perform a little too slowly for what they're doing. Obviously, to an end user, 100 milliseconds, 150 milliseconds of load time is nothing. That all appears, basically instantaneous to the human eye. But is there going to be a dashboard at some time that's officially supported by Pocket that is showing relative latency across the network based on some of those portal entries and exits?
Yeah, I've definitely got that. Got something planned like that in my head. I just don't have the hands to do it just yet. But yes, there's a lot of transparency that we can increase to the node runner population of how the API is performing, what region's performing, what traffic is in what region. And this is information that we're just sort of gathering now as the regions have gone live, and it's kind of surprised me a bit. Like we don't record IPs in our traffic, so we've never done a traffic analysis of where our end users actually are. And that was something we were considering doing, turning on IP recording for a little bit to get that data, and then doing a quick analysis of where everybody is. And we kind of just determined it was kind of pointless. We're just going to raise APIs everywhere. They're really cheap for us to raise because we don't actually run much infrastructure. It's just a little, basically a reverse proxy to get the data out to the nodes. So they're really lightweight. To raise a region, I think we determined it was $60 a month. So we just raised them all. Nice. So what's really surprised us is, well, surprised me at least, EU Central, Frankfurt is just still huge. Like we raised every other EU region possible, and it's still Frankfurt dominant, which was kind of surprising. So yeah, but this is the sort of data that all node runners need to have, and definitely something on the roadmap where I need to get a sort of public-facing dashboard. And I have an idea of how we're going to do it, where we're going to do it, just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I know that all eyes have been on the Asia market because we know how high blockchain activity is within the Asia market. But a lot of the pushback that I've been getting on relative latency across the network is specifically from people, in the Asia market. So will be interesting to see how all of that rollout affects that.
Yeah, like I said, we rolled out multiple Asias as well. South Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore, and maybe one more, but at least 3. And surprisingly enough, our traffic has shifted. So we were really, like when Harmony API had turned us on, and just for the record, we are not turned on in their API currently. All of this is natural Harmony traffic.
Wow.
Yeah, so when they did have us on, they have a lot coming from Asia, but their traffic has shifted. So DeFi Kingdoms is primarily played in the US. So our traffic has shifted over time, right? Like, and it changes over weeks and even less than that. US East came up in a real big way, mostly I think due to DeFi Kingdoms. So the US has really taken over the dominant traffic role where it was previously EU and it was for a while Singapore. So it shifts. So really the best and most profitable node runners, they are distributed. And that's something that the best ones did before this was even a thing. Like, the best node runners are actually in more locations than the API is at this point. And that's what keeps their average of profit really high. So if you, as a smaller node runner, if you have the opportunity to, say, raise some nodes in Frankfurt, raise some others in Singapore, raise some others in US East, raise some others in US West, and not necessarily speaking AWS zones. They can be GCP, they can be DigitalOcean, they can be bare metal, but those centered around those sort of hubs of internet traffic. Someone also posted that Frankfurt is one of the biggest hubs of internet traffic in the world, so it kind of makes sense that it's a big concentration for us as well. Like, it's just very central for all of EU to access. So really staying flexible in your regions and being as distributed as you can is super important to keep your averages up over time. You may feel you lucked out, like, oh, hey, I raised a node in Singapore and it's doing great, but now this month you're suffering. Why am I so far below average? That could be as simple as our traffic changed.
Gotcha. And what apps and where they're being accessed from and all the rest of that.
Exactly. And this is good. And again, I'm kind of, loath to speak too much detail about this because it's going to change so much as we increase the nodes per session. That's going to allow the API to really geolocate the traffic better and push more traffic to nodes that are closer to the clients. So this is all going to change very much so over the next week.
That's awesome. One of the things that we noticed recently was, of course, XDAI with their port of the Dark Forest game has been sending a ton of traffic through, and from looking at it publicly, it seems like they're doing a round like this every 30 days or so, and spinning up each time. Is our expectation, or is Pocket's expectation internally that this is going to stay consistent, or do we expect XDAI to be a bump there? Because I know some people weren't necessarily staked to XDAI if they were just trying to optimize for just the top one or two chains, by relay.
If you're not staked for XDAI, that tells me you haven't been around longer than a month or two, because XDAI was huge. XDAI and Fuse were our biggest traffic pushers for quite a while. I don't know, is Alberto on the call?
He is.
Well, there's our XDAI guy.
And a big Dark Forest player.
Yeah, we've been supporting Dark Forest for a little less than a year now. I think you were on the nose about the rounds happening like every month or so.
Yeah.
On average. I think that might pick up as more guilds from the Dark Forest community emerge and host their own community rounds. This is like not official, and this is probably going to be a community-led thing, but like at some point I will want to pitch to the Pocket node runners that we should host our own community round that lasts like a month, because I think that would drive a fuck ton of relays for the XDAI network. But yeah, that's something like we could just all plan together. I do think there's going to be like official Dark Forest rounds in the near future, but they usually keep like those dates like close to their chest.
Got it. So it's is there an advantage to knowing when the round starts, and is that like a planned spike in XDAI relays every time they do?
I would say keep your XDAI up. Like, you never know when it's going to spike. And also I would say it's worth experimenting with different XDAI clients. We're experimenting with different ones now. I've run Nethermind a lot in the past, and I find that the Open Ethereum client is not fantastic for RPC underload. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to experiment with Nethermind. Just watch the pruning characteristics on Nethermind. It has a lot of different pruning settings. So if you're going to be serving XDAI archival, make sure that you're doing no pruning on Nethermind. And if you're serving mainnet, make sure you have at least full node pruning on for Nethermind. They do have some light node prunings that really cut the data short.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, shifting into a slightly more development-heavy topic, there was a big proposal out on the forum by the Jamso crew in regards to building, I believe it was a Rust client for Pocket, and a fairly sizable proposal. I mean, they have, I know, an expensive engineering team, and they were looking to recoup all of their engineering costs in association with that. Do y'all have any sort of internal guidelines on what other, or what interfaces might be being created for Pocket in regards to, language support and stuff along that line, and what timelines on that might be?
Sure. So we're working internally on, I think I gave you this quick overview of the roadmap in Telegram. We're working internally on Pocket.js version 2. We have plans to work on Pocket Go, and that's in conjunction with the core protocol team. And those are the two most useful to us. We don't have any intention internally of using Rust at this point. So if that's something Jamso wants to do, that's fantastic. We are really looking forward to direct integrations with SDKs with V1. So when V1 comes out with more on-chain quality of service controls, that sort of thing, that's when we expect more transitioning over to direct SDK integrations. And that's going to get you even faster speed because you're just directly talking to the nodes instead of having to jump through our API endpoint. That, of course, is very possible now, but you're responsible for your own quality of service. So that's really looking forward to V1, where I think we'll see more of an explosion in sort of SDKs and interfaces to interact directly with the chain.
Beautiful. And follow-on question to that, somebody asked me in the Pocket Den the other day, and I really had fundamentally no answer to it, but it was an interesting question, I think. Obviously, Pocket's core functionality is to serve up RPC relays. But it's a significant infrastructure. The node network that's being built out is pretty extraordinary. We're rapidly reaching a network size that is, top 10 blockchain, node counts. Is there any other kind of functionality that's on the long-term vision for the use of the Pocket infrastructure?
I can't leak that out at this moment, Jinx.
Okay, fair enough. So that's an interesting answer all by itself. All right, good. So next question.
Hey, I had a quick question. If that's okay.
Yep.
Cool. So I'm pretty new to the Pocket community. I'm day 3 now, and I've been accumulating some tokens over the last few days. I have enough to run my own node now, but I have no experience doing that prior. So looking to be pointed towards any resources that could basically take someone from 0 to 100 as it relates to running their own node.
So a big part of the challenge of running the Pocket node is that it's not just the Pocket node that you have to run. So if you run master node projects in the past or validator node projects in the past, it's usually relatively simple. You run one type of node, you boot it up, it validates the blockchain, validates whatever it's doing on the chain to prove work, and you get paid. Pocket is actually quite a bit different. And I don't mean to say this as a discouragement to someone to run their own nodes, because I really want more node runners out there. But you do need to have a base set of skills, I think, in DevOps or sysadmin or something around that area to really do it efficiently and well. And that normally that's really just because you have to run other different types of nodes other than Pocket to profit on the network. If you simply just run the Pocket node, stake your Pocket, and don't run any other blockchain nodes behind it, you're not going to make any money. You'll make a very, very few Pocket per week serving up Pocket blockchain data. So what you really need to run is not just the Pocket node, but also an Ethereum node, also a Harmony node, also a Fuse node, also an XDAI node. And a lot of these nodes are similar, like they're not too different, and there's lots of instructions out there on how to run them. But running all of these nodes in tandem, keeping them up to date, keeping them synced, keeping your Pocket node connecting to them quickly and efficiently, these are all skills that usually come from the DevOps arena. And again, I don't want to discourage anyone from learning. If you're game to learn how to run blockchain nodes, go for it. But your first step might not actually be to run a Pocket node. Your first step might actually be to run an Ethereum node. Your next step after that, run a Harmony node. Once you have an Ethereum node and a Harmony node running, then you can put Pocket on top of it and actually start to earn. So that would be where I would start, is actually running the data nodes. Make sure you can do that in an efficient way. Make sure you have an understanding of how much those cost to run per month, where you're going to run them, what sort of infrastructure you want to set them up on. If those questions are sort of out of your scope, then maybe running your own node might not be the right approach.
And to add on to that, I got you covered, Shane. Nodepilot is an application that helps with some of this stuff for folks who maybe are not quite as, sysadmin savvy. So if you're on your way to sysadmin, but you're not quite there yet from running on, a full command line interface setup of Pocket, I would certainly recommend checking that out. But that being said, for anyone who doesn't have, that savvy at all, but is still providing, or still looking to get staked on the network, there are a number of community-approved third-party node runner type services. You can find those links on the forum itself or in any of the official channels. Check it out. It's you don't have to not participate in running a node just because you don't have the technical savvy to do it yourself. There are some very competent node runners out there.
And sorry, Shane, I certainly didn't mean to slight Nodepilot. That is absolutely the right answer to that. That if you have some tech skills, but not the full bevy of what I mentioned, Nodepilot is a fantastic solution to look at. Like, it's more of a one-click boot up that blockchain, but you do still have to manage the infrastructure behind it. You have to have some servers running. You have to be able to pay for those servers, scale those servers when necessary, that sort. But yes, it's just not on my day-to-day things that I deal with. So Nodepilot didn't come off the top of my head, but yes, absolutely. A good answer.
Yeah, and that's where the as Alex was saying, if running your own node, if you're going to be using like a service like AWS or DigitalOcean or something like that, there is a little bit of tech savvy elements to that, because you have to spin up a VM. And then kind of manage that, and that's definitely not geared towards the everyday user. There are if you're wanting to run actually bare metal, it can actually be very simple with Nodepilot, because all you do is install Ubuntu, which there's plenty of tutorials out there on installing Ubuntu. It's very simple. You can even install Ubuntu desktop if you want a GUI. And that works perfectly fine. But then, installing Nodepilot is just basically one command, and it's installed. And it's we have a few hundred validators on the Pocket network independently using Nodepilot. So there's good reach right now, and there's been a lot of people testing it. I use it myself, and I don't have DevOps skills. I couldn't spin up an AWS node if I wanted to, without having to do a good amount of research. So, but running bare metal, it's been very easy to run. So it's definitely an option depending on how you want to go. We're more than happy to talk to you in Node Runner, or elsewhere about what would be a good option for you.
Beautiful. I mean, in my opinion, I think, as someone who started out, and when I first started working on my first bare metal node, I was absolutely clueless. I mean, I did run Pocket only for the first couple of months because I just didn't even understand it to that degree. And I was like, I'm only getting a couple of Pocket a day. It's like, well, thanks for supporting Pocket wallet lookups, but that's all you're doing, There is definitely a spectrum of participation within the network. And I think at this point, the ecosystem is well developed enough that there are options for people at every level of expertise. So, dig in, jump in the communities, ask questions, and you'll get referred to lots of different folks. And really, like, third-party info from people who have personal experience with individual node runners, or with running the software, or with running the or running bare metal setups. There is a new group that just spun up on Telegram over the weekend called Pocket Pilots, which is specifically dedicated to folks doing homebrew builds on bare metal. So, that's super interesting to me. If you're a tinker type and you want to start playing with it, jump over there and look for them.
Is that a Telegram group?
It is. Yeah, it's there's I think, let's see, Germ is in there, and I think it's actually run by Mark Patterson, I think. But it's a pretty good group. Q Spider's in there. There's definitely some folks in there who know what they're doing on the bare metal side.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, that sounds like an interesting group to be a part of. Cool.
Excellent. Well, we're getting close to the bottom of the hour now, so if you've got your questions, now's the time to get them in.
Hey, this is Mark. Do you recommend Ethereum or Harmony? And if Ethereum, do you recommend a full node or a light node?
Ooh. I mean, I recommend both, no question. But anybody else want to?
Yeah, sure, I'll answer. So yeah, definitely both. If you have to choose one, Harmony, it's driving more of the relays than Ethereum. Though Ethereum is definitely easier to run. Harmony falls out of sync faster. It's harder to get in sync. But if you're going to do one, definitely just do Harmony. It's not too hard to start up. If you're doing Ethereum, was the second part of the question. I don't even use anything but Aragon these days. Aragon being ERIGON, not Aragon, the DAO token. Aragon is sort of the next generation of Ethereum clients. When they went and wrote Aragon, they based it off of Geth, but then rewrote the entire database structure and how it records data. So it syncs much faster, and it gives you a complete archival node in just about 2 terabytes of space. So you can serve all of the archival Ethereum chains as well. If you just want a full node, I'm not actually sure what Ethereum client I'd recommend, except maybe Nethermind. I don't really go for Geth, though I do know a lot of large node runners still run Geth. And of course, Open Ethereum has been deprecated.
Yeah, beautiful. I know that we, on the bare metal stack, we definitely just got Aragon running, and it seems to be much more efficient and less storage. Obviously, one of the biggest things if you're running bare metal, I mean, the considerations that make the most difference fundamentally are like storage, how good your storage is, what speed it is, the amount of IOPS it is, and how much of it you have. Those are that's probably the single biggest consideration when building a bare metal stack. Everything else is secondary to that. So anything that makes storage and IOPS more efficient is going to be the route you want to go. All right. Well, I think we got time for maybe one more question. So if you got one, get it in.
Hey, I'm new to the Discord, and I just have a quick question about. Well, in the future, will you guys be fractionalizing the requirement for owning a node? As I have joined late, and kind of the capital needed to run a node right now, it's a little bit out of my reach, and I would really wanted to participate in having a node.
Well, I hate to sound like a shill, but we do have a fractional staking service set up in Pocket Pool. So if you want to jump into one of the unofficial channels and ask about that, you can certainly get a lot of information there. I suspect that some other folks may decide that that's worth their time and spin up something similar. But the other thing to keep in mind is that over the long term, there may be adjustments that affect what total capital is required to get staked on a full node. But currently, I think Pocket Pool is probably the only full service that's up and running and actively managed right now. So check that out, and keep an eye out on any other node runners who are potentially interested in looking at fractional.
Great. Thank you so much.
You got it. All right. Well, we are coming up on the top of the hour, or bottom of the hour, so I think we're going to wrap it at this point, and we do this every Wednesday at noon. I don't always get the event up in Discord on time, but you can set it on your calendar and bet that it will be here. That's noon EDT, and hopefully maybe at some point in time we may expand to having one for the other hemisphere run by somebody else, at around midnight. So if somebody in the community is stepping up to help organize something like that, that'd probably be a good thing as well. But all the team here that you see and have talked to, they are in the Pocket Network Discord. So make sure you are in the official Discord and follow Pocket Network on Twitter. And don't DM people, just FYI. Put those questions out in the actual channel conversations. The questions and answers are important to the community at large, and so seeing the answers to those questions, A, helps everyone, and B, makes it searchable in the Discord history as well. But keep those nodes running, enjoy those rewards as they're coming in, and that's our office hours call for today. Thanks for being here.